Making it to the NFL is the dream of many college football players. Athletes put in hours of hard work on the field and film room in hopes of one day becoming millionaires. But the number of players who end up bankrupt is far too many. Sports Illustrated once estimated that 78% of NFL stars have lost their fortunes. It comes down to three things. They trust the wrong people and make terrible investments, divorce and child support, or their crazy lifestyle catches up with them. Even the biggest contracts in the NFL don't guarantee an easy life. Remember, they have to pay taxes, mortgages, and many other expenses. So let's take a look at some of the NFL legends who have lost it all. And we begin with a legend from the 305, and I'm talking about former Miami Dolphins quarterback and Hall of Famer Dan Marino, who established himself as an all-time great and appeared in movies like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Furthermore, he earned a massive fortune during this period with over $50 million in salary alone. Marino lost everything when a company called Digital Domain Media Group went bankrupt, famous for producing a hologram of Tupac at a music festival. Marino had a massive stake in this company and was only left with $850,000. Next up is running back Adrian Peterson, who is the classic example of an NFL star who made a fortune but could not pay his debts. Before he lost all of his money, Peterson was worth about $100 million. But that is a lot of money to lose, of course, when you throw parties of 320 guests, ice sculptures, and camel rides do not help at all. Peterson also failed to repay a $5 million loan. AP trusted the wrong people and paid heavily for it. Peterson is still playing, looking to make some money before he can finally retire. Next up is another guy from Texas. I'm talking about Vince Young. He blew much of his fortune by being somewhat selfish. He did not want to be bothered when he traveled. He wanted so much peace and comfort, he would buy all the seats on a plane. Young did not care about balancing the books when he was young, and he paid for it later in life. Vince lasted 6 seasons in the NFL, and towards the end of his career, his debts kept mounting and mounting. One problem was that he trusted his uncle with his finances. Then he splurged on everything under the sun for himself and family members. He lost over $10 million. Next up is another running back, this time Ray Rice, who became more famous for his off-the-field incident when he hit his wife in 2014, which went viral. That resulted in him losing most of his endorsement deals with Nike and EA Sports. After an earlier 2-game ban, the NFL suspended Rice indefinitely. No team wanted to sign him, and he never collected the $10 million the Ravens owed him. Taxes, legal fees, mortgages, and shocking spending fees mounted up as he lost everything he had. Let's talk about Hall of Fame quarterback John Elway of the Broncos. That legend poured millions into a Ponzi scheme back in the day where he almost lost all of his investment because it fell apart. Elway is doing very well for himself these days, but he also missed a massive investment opportunity. Back in 1998, Broncos owner Pat Bowlen offered him 10% stake for $15 million. He turned it down, but it must be painful to look back as that investment now would be worth close to $400 million. Now, we all know about O.J. Simpson's legal problems, the former NFL star, and his murder investigation and the trial. And let's not forget the armed robbery conviction years later cost him millions of dollars. He was also ordered to pay $35 million to the victims' families. He is technically in the hole for that, yet he may never actually pay because the Florida state laws enable him to keep his home from creditors and enjoy his NFL pension as well as Social Security payments. Now, most men usually have 3 pairs of shoes, but Warren Sapp had literally thousands of shoes in his warehouse-sized closet. with an estimated 2,400 pairs at one point. This should give you a snapshot of the former defensive back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and his spending habits. He burned through money like it's about to go out of fashion. Sapp lost $75 million of his fortune. The 7-time Pro Bowler plunged into a massive debt and owed almost $7 million. And to make matters worse, NBC fired him for trying to pick up a prostitute, and he also lost his house. And we close out with the most dramatic downfalls in sports history with quarterback Michael Vick, who in his prime was the best quarterback on the field. However, being brilliant on the field doesn't necessarily translate to being a great person. After a federal investigation uncovered his dogfighting ring, Vick served almost 2 years in prison. He lost all of his major endorsements and had to pay massive legal fees. He lost over $130 million before he got out of prison. After leaving jail, he found redemption with a $100 million deal with the Eagles. He cleared most of his debts, but was no longer the mega rich star of back in his younger days.